Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today, I want to test a new feature that was recently released in Aura. You can now clone a live website just from a URL using a DESIGN.md file. So let's test this feature together. If you navigate to the Changelog tab, you'll see that this feature was released about a week ago. And this is the interface for it. Basically, you can now paste a live website URL and Aura will import it, analyze it, and turn it into something you can recreate or remix. It's really useful for rapid prototyping, inspiration, or bootstrapping a new project from a real reference. So in this video, I'm gonna test it on 5 different websites from different categories. The first one is Awwwards, which is more of a design inspiration and showcase website. It has a very editorial, creative, and content-heavy feel, so I thought it would be a fun one to test with. So to use this feature, just click the link icon and paste the URL you want to import. You have 2 options here. You can choose exactly if you want the output to stay as close as possible to the original website, or different if you want Aura to keep the layout direction but adapt the text, the numbers, the colors, and images into something new. For the first test, I'm going to choose exactly and click import. Now Aura starts running through a few steps in the background. First, it chooses the import, then it downloads the live site source, then it prepares a design.md attachment from the imported website. It also captures a screenshot of the page and validates that screenshot to make sure it actually grabbed the real page correctly and not a blank state or block screen. So the whole thing is not just taking a screenshot, it's collecting structure, visual reference, and design instruction together. Once the analysis is done, which take about 1 to 2 minutes, you'll get the full screenshot of the layout, and most importantly, you'll get the design.md file. This is the part I find the most interesting. Basically, a design.md is a markdown-based design instruction file. You can think of it like a design system summary that the AI can actually read and use, instead of only looking at a screenshot and trying to guess what's happening visually. Aura also generates a structure breakdown of the site. In the screenshot here, you can see section for colors, typography, elevation, borders, rounding, layering, component, and do's and don'ts, and even asset. That's important because it gives the AI more than just pixel. It gives the logic behind the design. It's basically saying, here's how the website is built, and here's how the visual system behaves. And here are the rules you should follow when recreating it. Then Aura automatically builds a detailed prompt using the screenshot and everything inside that design.md file. From here, you can generate the result either in HTML plus JavaScript or in React. For this demo, I'm going to use HTML because React is still in beta and HTML should give the most accurate first pass. Then you can choose your model. Right now, there are a few options, including Claude, GPT 5.4, and Gemini. For this demo, I'm going with Gemini 3.1 Pro. Then just click Send. At this point, Aura studies the attached screenshot, the design.md file, and the generated prompt, then produce the first iteration. And here's the result. If we scroll through it, it actually feels pretty close to the original in terms of overall styling, layout energy, and color direction. So as a first pass, it's pretty impressive. With that said, as for my first selection, I'm not sure this was the easiest website to test with because it has a lot going on visually. So it's a good stress test, but maybe not the cleanest example for accuracy. So now let's try the exact same URL again, but this time using different instead of exact. So again, Aura gives us the screenshot, the design.md file, and the detailed prompt. But this time, instead of trying to reproduce the original content closely, it keeps the same general layout structure and visual logic while adapting the content, imagery, and some of the supporting content. And that's where this gets really interesting because now it's not just cloning, It's using the imported website more like a design foundation. It keeps the composition and the feel, but it starts turning it into something new. So this mode feels much more useful if your goal is inspiration or remixing rather than direct recreation. For the second website, I'm going to test Aman.com. Aman is a luxury travel and hospitality brand focused on high-end resorts, private residences, wellness experiences, and curated across multiple destinations around the world. So visually, this is a really good test because the site has that premium travel aesthetic, lots of white space, beautiful photography, a very calm pace, and a strong sense of atmosphere. So we're going to repeat the same process. I'll copy the URL, import it, select exactly, and click import. Once again, we get the screenshot of the layout and the design.md file. So now we're ready for our second iteration. Okay, so this is the first iteration of our second website. And I think we have a small issue here because there's a cookie settings overlay sitting on top of the layout. That most likely happened because when Aura analyzed the URL and captured the page, the cookie pop-up was already visible on the live site. Since the screenshot is one of the main visual references the AI uses, it tried to reproduce that overlay as part of the design instead of treating it like a temporary UI element. So technically, the AI is not really making a mistake here. It's just being faithful to what it saw during the import. This kind of issue can happen on websites that loads cookie banners, region prompts, or newsletter pop up right away. So I'm just going to prompt it to remove that overlay. Okay, for some reason, I think I'm having a small connection issue right now, so let me fix that first. All right, now I've been able to remove that overlay. And for this first iteration, the overall feel and styling are actually pretty accurate. The layout direction feels close to the original source, and the overall mood is there. But it's missing a lot of the images, so this is not really the best result yet. If we compare it to the original source, the real website is heavily driven by imagery. Aman's site uses destination photography, resort visuals, seasonal experiences, and travel storytelling as a core part of the design language. So if those images are missing, the whole page naturally feels incomplete. But then I noticed something important here. If we click on the screenshot that was generated during the analysis, you can actually see that the screenshot itself is causing the issue because the image layout is not fully there in the capture reference. And since the AI is trying to reproduce what it sees, the output ends up following that incomplete screenshot. So here's a quick tip if you ever run into that kind of problem after the first analysis. You do not have to rely only on the automatically captured screenshot if it's not good enough. You can go back to the original website, click on File, then Save As, and select PNG so you can export the page as an image. Then in your new prompt, you can keep the design.md file and use that again as your design system reference. So now I'm going to create a new prompt, select Gemini 3.1 Pro, paste the detailed prompt, and notice that the design.md file is already attached for me, so I don't need to download it manually. Then I attach the screenshot I just exported from the original source. But here we run into another issue. It says the image is not valid because that file size exceeds 5 megabytes. That usually happens because PNG files are often much larger than JPEG file. PNG is great when you want cleaner image quality, sharper edges, or transparency because it keeps more visual information. JPEG, on the other hand, compresses the image more aggressively, which usually makes the file size much smaller. So for UI references or full page screenshot where size matter most than perfect image fidelity, JPEG is often the more practical option. So here's a quick trick to convert it. If you use Figma, you can just drag the PNG into a frame, then export it again as JPEG instead. Usually that reduces the file size a lot, and in most cases, it should solve the upload limit problem. So now I'm going to attach the new JPEG image and use that as the visual reference. And now you can see the difference right away. This time the screenshot is much more complete and the layout structure is fully visible. So let's generate it again. And now the result is much closer to the original source. The layout feels far more accurate. The imagery is back, and overall it does a much better job matching the original experience. But it's still missing one main visual element in the hero section, either an image or a video. But that's a relatively minor detail and something that can be fixed pretty easily afterward. So for the second test, I'd say the cloning feature works very well. It took a bit of manual correction because of the screenshot issue, but once the visual reference was cleaned up, the result became much more reliable. So overall for Aman, I'd say this one passes the test. Okay, so for our third website, we have A24films.com. A24 is an entertainment and media brand known for film and television. So this is a really interesting test because the site has a strong editorial feel, bold visual, dark section, and a very distinct brand identity. So I'm going to paste the URL, click import, and this time let's first check whether the screenshot Aura generated is complete. And at first glance, it actually looks pretty solid. It seems to have most of the detail and section from the original source, and we also have our DESIGN.md file, which is really all we need. So now let's hit send and generate the first iteration. And if you look at the result, we ran into a similar issue again in the hero section, where two overlays were also brought into the clone. But aside from that, the rest is actually very accurate in terms of layout, styling, and overall vibe. And one thing that's honestly pretty impressive is how close some of the imagery looks compared to the original reference. There is a slight difference in the footer section, but overall, this one passed the cloning test pretty easily. Now, if you want to get rid of those overlays, there are two easy ways to do it. You can either prompt Aura to remove them, or you can jump straight into code mode. Usually, once you select a container on the canvas, Aura takes you straight to the related portion of the code. And most of the time, the sections are clearly labeled with comments. So here, for example, we can see the cookies consent banner overlay. We can just delete that block and it disappears. Then we do the same thing for the newsletter modal overlay. Just select that section, remove it, and that's it. Now we have a much cleaner and much more exact clone of the original layout. Okay, now for our fourth website, we have Sweetgreen.com. Sweetgreen is a modern food and restaurant brand focused on seasonal salads, grain bowls, and what they describe as real healthy food. The site is a great reference for clean consumer branding because it mixes product storytelling, strong photography, and a polished, friendly color system. So from here, you already know the process. And here we ran into a similar issue again where the automatically captured screenshot wasn't fully complete. So in that case, you can just save your own screenshot directly from the original website and replace the generated one. So now inside the detailed prompt, I'm just replacing the screenshot with the cleaner one I exported myself, while keeping the design.md file and detailed prompt that Aura already prepared. Then we hit generate again. So this was the original layout. It's a shorter landing page, but it's really well designed with nice photography, clean hierarchy, and beautiful colors. And here's the clone iteration. Honestly, not bad at all. Very accurate. It kept the overall structure, the feel, and the visual tone really well. So this one also passes the test. And finally, for the fifth website, we have Headspace.com. Headspace is a mental health and wellness platform built around meditation, mindfulness, sleep support, and coaching. So visually, it's a softer and more approachable kind of website with rounded shapes, friendly illustration, and a very calm, welcoming design system. And this is the screenshot generated from the import, and this is the final iteration of that website. I'd say this one is just a little bit less accurate than some of the others, but it still kept the overall feeling of the original site. and it even preserves some of the imagery and visual direction. So even though it's not a perfect one-to-one result, it still does a good job capturing the structure and mood of the source. So overall, I think this cloning feature is genuinely useful. But I do want to make one important point here. You should not use this tool to copy someone else's website exactly and then publish it as your own. You can't just take others people's branding, text, or images and reuse them directly. That can create copyright, trademark, especially if the result is too close to the original brand or uses their protected creative asset. The better way to use this feature is as a starting point. Use it to study layout structure, use it to get a strong first draft, use it to remix an interaction pattern, a section flow, or a visual rhythm. Then make it your own by changing the color palette, the typography, the text content, and especially the imagery. And ideally, iterate on a few sections so that the final result becomes an original design rather than a duplicate. So for me, the real value of this feature is rapid prototyping, remixing, and building a strong foundation much faster than starting from a blank page. So I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope this gives you a clearer idea on how to use the new cloning feature in Aura. So if you enjoyed the video, leave a like or a comment, and I'll see you in the next video.